just a bit outside.
Welcome on into another episode of Nate Hit the Foul Pole. I am here with my co-host, Matt Pine. Matt, how you doing today?
Good, Zach. I am definitely starving for baseball, as many of us are here. And, this is kind of the two worst weeks of the year in terms of sports happening or not happening, I should say. But, spring training is starting to get underway here, so it should be fun.
Yeah, no doubt. I think we're all kind of starved for baseball. It's the weird part of the year where there's no NFL, there's no MLB. If you're not a NBA fan, NHL fan, then it's kind of a tough part of the year. But there is college baseball. I don't know if you've watched any college baseball so far, but I've gotten to see a few games so far. I'm definitely looking out for some of the Orioles prospects, Matt McLain, Orioles draft prospects, I guess I should say. Matt McLain, Adrian Del Castillo, Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, Jaden Hill, those kind of guys. I believe Jaden Hill is actually pitching right now as we record this, but didn't get to see him today, unfortunately. Hopefully soon. So hopefully we get to see a few of those college guys that the Orioles could have with that fifth pick.
I mean, it is pretty wild that Kumar Rocker is still in college. It feels like he's had the hype train behind him for 3 or 4 years now. But we're very much looking forward to seeing him pitch, even if it's not with the Orioles. So.
Yeah, obviously a topic for a different pod, but Kumar Rocker, definitely my number 2 prospect going into this draft right now. He's just such a polished pitcher. I look at him as a guy who's a little bit of a risk, but he is so good, so fun to watch. And that curveball, the fastball mix is just unbelievable. So I'm excited to see him. And Jaden Hill throws 98 really pretty much with every pitch he throws. So it's definitely going to be a fun class, and the Orioles can't really go wrong with any of these guys, but definitely a topic for a different pod.
Yeah, if you guys didn't see, last year we actually live streamed the drafts.
And we'll be doing it again.
Yeah, we'll be doing it again in 4-hour show, so look out for that coming up in, July now, right?
Yeah, hopefully, I think it is July, and hopefully we can get Jim Callis back on here to talk some draft prospects before that. But that is all a few months away. They moved back the draft this year, unfortunately, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
We do have some Orioles news in the meantime. Obviously, some big, I would say pretty big signings have happened. Big trades have happened in the weeks since we've made our last show. Number one, obviously, Alex Cobb getting traded to the Los Angeles Angels for Jahmai Jones. The Orioles will retain $10 million of the $15 million contract that Cobb has for the 2021 season. Matt, thoughts on that trade? What do you think of Jahmai Jones? Where does he kind of slot into the Orioles' plans for the 2021 season?
Well, I think, fans might have had a misunderstanding at the time when they got Jahmai Jones. Looking at him on the Angels list and you see he's a top 10 prospect, you think, okay, well, he's going to be a top 10 prospect or top, 15 prospect on the Orioles system. But the Orioles system just is better than the Angels system is right now. That's just a fact. And that's a good thing. You want to get all the talent you could possibly get. With that being said, he's got every shot in the world to be the starting second baseman coming into 2021. You look a little bit at his minor league career. It doesn't necessarily wow you, but he's a guy that has some good tools across the board. He's got good speed. He has the ability to get on base. So he's a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing what he can provide for this season.
Yeah, I am too. I like Jahmai Jones, and I think that he's a guy who unfortunately can only really play second base. But you can shift the Orioles' other infielders around. I think Yolmer Sanchez fits pretty well at third, too. He's obviously a Gold Glover at second, but he could easily move over there to third, and I think he'd be perfectly fine. But as far as Jahmai Jones goes, I do think that he is a future piece for the Orioles. I really do. I think he's got a lot of on-base skills. Like you said, he makes contact very well. Obviously the defense is something he's still working on. He's a center fielder that transferred into a second baseman. So he's still kind of coming along defensively, but if he can get better defensively, and that's all part of Orioles player development, they're so good in that area now. So I have no doubt they'll make Jahmai Jones into a better player, but I do think that, he's got a lot of potential. Keith Law loves him. And, no matter what you think of Keith Law, it's still a big prospect guy saying that Jahmai Jones is a really good player.
Does he still love him is the question.
Does he still love him? Well, no, he's an Oriole now, so he's the worst second base prospect in the history of baseball. But it is still a top prospect. Analysts saying Jahmai Jones is a great player. It seems like Jim Callis and some of the other big guys, Kyle Glazer, Kylie McDaniel, they don't quite agree that he's one of the top prospects. But I'm not going to discount that opinion for sure.
Well, I mean, you look at the history of the Orioles, like no matter who they are, it seems like their prospects don't necessarily get rated very highly. And, some of that is totally fair. I think John Means didn't become who he was and who he is until he really hit the major leagues, worked on his pitch selection and, how he threw his changeup. But another guy like Trey Mancini, he produced at every level, was never considered to be a highly regarded prospect. So you never know with some of these guys.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, Trey Mancini, 8th round pick, not a guy who was ever really even ranked. I think his highest rank inside the Orioles system was 5. According to Pipeline, of course, there's EA, there's ESPN.
That's when the system was pretty bad, right?
Fairly bad. And the system was bad. So 5 then is probably, 12 now, 13 now. Yeah. And Trey Mancini turned out to be great. So you could see a guy like, Taron Vavra, who's sitting at 12 or 13 now, turn out to be an Orioles piece that they could have for a long time down the road. And that is a really, functional and productive piece for the Orioles. So it definitely could happen. There's a lot of guys that have a lot of potential in the system, but Jahmai Jones just adds to Mike Elias's insane depth he's building in this farm system. So it's exciting to see for sure. Now, the next big move was Felix Hernandez signing a minor league deal with the Orioles. He will sign that deal that will give him a $1 million salary if he does make the majors with the Orioles. Obviously, I think it's a pretty foregone conclusion that he will be in the majors at some point. I already really think he's the lock for the number 4 spot in that starting rotation. But Matt, do you think King Felix has anything left? He has been pitching through a couple injuries in the past couple years. He put up a 1.98 ERA in spring training with the Braves last year. Is there anything left for King Felix?
I think I'm a little bit more bearish on Felix than you are. But to your point, he has been pitching through injuries, so we really don't know what to expect. Like he could be a light version of the Felix of old, or he could be not so great, and he could be throwing up lollipops there at the plate. I was looking at some of his numbers, and yes, pitching through injuries, but his average fastball was 89 miles per hour last 2 years, which is not really great. So he's got to learn to be that finesse type pitcher, and Clayton Kershaw, guys like that of that age. And Felix is not really all that old, but those guys who are aging, high velocity guys formerly, they have to learn how to pitch. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think he'll be a key piece of the rotation.
No, I agree for sure, and I think he's going to be there really from opening day until if he's possibly traded. I think there's a good possibility that King Felix could get traded. He's just a guy who the Orioles probably signed to trade. I mean, if he puts up a 4 ERA, a 4.5 ERA, maybe even a 5, if he's, putting up a 0.5 WAR, 1 WAR, somewhere around that area, he's going to have some trade value, and the Orioles are going to ship him out for a couple Dominican Summer League prospects. That's just what they'll do. That's what they always do. I mean, Andrew Kashner, Tommy Malone, that's just generally the way the Orioles have operated. So they signed him to trade him. If you can put up a couple wins for them, they're not going to complain about that either. So, it's an interesting move for sure.
The real question, though, is where is the King's Court in Camden Yards going to be held?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think the flag court is already kind of a court, so we'll just make it the King Court.
Okay, I could see that.
Is he King Felix anymore though? Like, we might have to take the crown away from him because he's not exactly the power pitcher, the dominant Cy Young pitcher he once was. So maybe he's now like Prince Felix.
He'll rise up the ranks. He'll start out as Jester Felix and Pauper Felix, and then we'll see what happens. He might get Prince status. We'll see what happens.
Servant Felix, and then
Servant Felix. Mm-hmm.
He'll move up the ranks.
We just don't want peasant Felix. That would be the problem. We don't want
I mean, he's a Baltimore Oriole now, so that's probably what we'll get. That's probably what we'll get, if we're being honest. He's pitching in one of the hardest parks to pitch in the league. Yeah. And he's going to see Yankee Stadium. He's going to see a lot of these other.
This ain't Safeco no more.
It isn't Safeco. Safeco very deep in all the corners. So it's a good point that he's gotten definitely himself into a harder situation in the AL East. I think if I'm a veteran pitcher, I don't want to sign in Camden Yards. I don't want to play for the Orioles because you're so susceptible to giving up long balls. Dylan Bundy gave up more long balls, I think, in a season than anybody else did. ever. I believe that's correct. So, it's kind of tough to sign guys like King Felix, but I'm glad he's here for sure.
Yeah. The next guy you're going to talk about, I think I prefer Felix over Matt Harvey.
Yeah, so Matt Harvey, the next Orioles signing, not a guy who has been very productive for a long while now. It seems like ever since his years in 2013, 2014, where he was just dominant for the Mets, he's been around. He's been with the Reds. He's been with the Royals. Again, this is a minor league deal, kind of low risk for the Orioles. They figure, okay, maybe Chris Holt can turn him around, can turn him into someone he's, used to be. But chances are, if that happening, are probably pretty low. He's not the greatest clubhouse guy. I don't want to talk bad about him. But that's the truth. I mean, we all know.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, we all know about Matt Harvey's issues in the clubhouse. So he's kind of been dismissive of reporters sometimes. So, not an exciting move, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
I said this in a tweet to Jimmy from the Bleacher Birds podcast. I was like, you know what? Might not be good, but at least his team now has personality with Matt Harvey.
It does. That's for sure.
I'm not as high on him as I think Felix's potential could be. But to that point, he is younger than Felix. He is only 31 years old, which to me is insane thinking about how many years ago he was so dominant and so great. I looked again at some numbers, some advanced metrics. Back in 2017, the average exit velocity against him was 87.5. Last season, it was 93.5. So it was 6 miles per hour more than just 3 or 4 years ago. So not great.
No.
But like you said, you throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. And with Chris Holt, you never know.
No, that's a great analogy of it. Throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. That's what the Orioles are doing, and that's what they'll be doing for probably the next 2 years. Just signing these kind of guys, seeing what happens. The Orioles have had a lot of luck in waiver claims, a lot of luck in minor league signings over the past couple of years that guys haven't worked out on previous teams. They've come over to the Orioles. You look at Paul Fry, Miguel Castro. Yeah. These are all waiver claims. I mean, these are guys who really
Renato Nunez was a waiver claim.
Renato Nunez, right? And he was pretty productive for the Orioles. Even now there are still some waiver claims on the roster. Matt's favorite player on the Orioles, Ashton Goudeau, and waiver claim from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Probably going to win Cy Young this year, but
that's a totally made up name, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
Matt just became aware of him today, and I think most Orioles fans are probably just becoming aware of this guy. Not going to be a player for the Orioles this year, most likely, but you never know. We could see him in spring training. I don't know.
It's got a good name, though. I'll give him that. So,
it is. Ashton Goudeau is an exciting name.
I might do a heel turn and just become the biggest fan of his and just root on one incessantly.
You're gonna have to make a Ashton Goudeau fan account, or a Stan account is even better. I mean, then you can just walk around insulting people and pretending to be Ashton Goudeau. So.
It is time for a rebrand. So I think I might.
It is.
We'll see.
Matt had, I won't say what it was, but Matt had a while back a parody.
You've already said what it was, so you don't have to say it again.
I don't think people remember that episode, but
I don't think so either. I think it was on the draft show.
It was the draft show. It was. But an Ashton Goudeau parody account is coming soon. Produced by Nate at the Foul Pole, so expect to see it on your timeline. Talking trash, probably. So.
Yep. Cool. Any other pitchers we wanted to mention here after the transactions?
Yeah, I do want to talk about 2 guys that I think maybe have a bit of make or break years coming up, and especially one of them. One of them's more make or break than the other. But I do want to first talk about Hunter Harvey, because this is a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy. Former really, really mega prospect for the Orioles back in 2013, 2014. I remember the hype train around it was insane. This is a guy who people thought would be a future frontline starter. Obviously, he's never worked out to that. Now he's a closer, just like his dad was, and a guy who has, I would say, a little bit of potential, but just hasn't been able to figure it out, hasn't been able to stay healthy. And a guy that I've kind of soured on personally ever being anything for the Orioles. This is a year Hunter Harvey's got to prove stuff. He's got to prove he's the closer of the future, maybe even the setup man of the future, if he can be that. Matt, what are your feelings on Hunter Harvey? Can he stay healthy, number one? And then what's he going to be? What's his role for the Orioles in 2021?
I mean, that's a really tough question. Can he stay healthy? It's tough when you draft these high school pitchers. We saw with Dylan Bundy, the inability to really stay healthy and stay consistent. That's somewhat becoming the story of Hunter Harvey. I mean, he's only pitched 17 games in the last 2 years, so that's not very
Yeah,
much.
that's terrible.
That's not very. It doesn't instill much confidence, but he's got really good stuff. If they can just get him on some sort of a program, to just keep him healthy, keep him stretched out, I think he could be really special. It's crazy to think that he's already 26 years old because it seems like we just drafted him yesterday, but it's like you said, this is the year. It's make or break right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's make or break. And, I'm not sure the Orioles are going to release him. I'm not sure of anything like that. But if he has a bad year in 2021 or he's injured for the whole year, people are going to start saying, okay, this is not the guy we thought he was, going to be. This is probably time to start looking at cutting ties or replacing him somewhere else. So, I do think it's an important year for him.
I mean, he's a guy that you can easily root for. I mean, not only just the crazy hair he's got going on, but I remember the story when he debuted in Boston. I think it was his first game he debuted. His dad drove through the night from North Carolina to go see him. Like, his dad was a former big league closer. Like, that's dedication. It's, obviously he's got a lot of support around him, and, you hope for the best for him.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And the second pitcher I wanted to cover on this podcast, because I think it's not really a make or break year for him. You might want to call it that, but it's more of an important year to solidify status, I would say. And that's John Means, obviously a guy who has been pretty dominant for the Orioles over the past few years, came out of nowhere, really was never a top prospect, just like we talked about with Trey Mancini, but a guy who has been a very important piece for the Orioles. I would call him the Orioles ace right now. That's what I think he is, by all means. No pun intended. But John is definitely a guy who has a lot to prove because he had a rough 2020. I mean, let's be honest. He had a rough 2020. His dad obviously passed away, which was tough. COVID really brought everything to a standstill for the baseball season, and he wasn't very good. In the last couple of games, he put some things together, but he has a lot to prove for me, and I think that he has to put up a solid season to really solidify himself as that ace this year.
I am high on John Means. I am in the camp that I think he is going to have a season much like 2019 and put those numbers back up. I think we could have expected, not very many games last year, but we could have expected regression last year. We very much saw it. But in the same token, he had a sub-1 whip last season, which you would think a guy with 4.5 ERA wouldn't have a sub-1 whip, but he did. He's got a lot to prove. He still wants to prove that he's that guy. Whether he's on the next playoff team and the next World Series team remains to be seen.
I hope so.
I would definitely hope so. He's only 27. But putting that all aside, I think he's going to have a monster 2021 season.
I hope so. I mean, this is a guy who he just needs it. He really does. And the Orioles need it. They could use that frontline starter, and he's brought his fastball up to 95 miles per hour. His curveball he's worked on a little bit. His slider's gotten better. Obviously, still is the dominant changeup. So I'm hoping for great things from John Means in 2021. Now, I want to switch topics a little bit here. Matt, I'm going to throw a curveball at you right here because there's an interesting topic I heard on 105.7 the other day that I want to talk about a little bit here.
Okay.
And obviously, Fernando Tatis got a 14-year, $340 million extension. Absolutely massive. Absolutely nuts. I mean, we could talk about this and debate that one all day. But would the Orioles do this with Adley Rutschman? And would that be a good idea? Would the Orioles, pre-arbitration, right now, give Adley Rutschman a massive extension? And should they do that?
I think they probably should. I think it's kind of the way baseball is going. Him being a catcher might factor in a little bit to getting a little bit, friendlier deal. But maybe like trying to think what would be reasonable, like an 8-year, $120 million deal. Is that reasonable?
Sounds fair.
Yeah. I don't know what massive means. Like, obviously you're not going to shell out $200 million for a guy who hasn't played yet, but
right.
I mean,
it's really a strategy the White Sox started doing, and they were kind of the first ones that I would say trailblazed that opportunity, doing pre-arbitration extensions, really for some of the guys doing them before they even made a major league debut. I believe Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert got a massive extension early on, and then I believe that Tim Anderson got an extension after his first year in the majors. So all of these guys, they locked them up quick, and now look what position the White Sox are in. They're in the position to probably win their division and maybe make a World Series run. So
you could say the same thing about the Braves too.
Yeah, the Braves did a lot of the same things. I'm not sure if Acuna's gotten his extension yet, but if he hasn't, it's probably coming soon.
Oh, he's gotten it. Yeah, it was super team friendly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I would hope that any Oriole that would sign like that would be team friendly too. I'm sure Adley Rutschman would, and it makes sense that any contract given out pre-arbitration, really even pre-major league experience, would be team friendly because they're just so risky for the team. But I think that's an interesting debate topic. It's a risky move. You really don't know what's going to happen. The guy could get injured and they could lose all their ability, but you don't know.
It would have nothing to, for me, it would have nothing to do with fear of not performing. It would be like the injury risk. You want to shell out all that money if the guy comes out and something happens, God forbid, the first year, and then you're stuck with it. So that would be my only concern. But that's a concern with any big contract, really.
Definitely. And I think the thing about Adley Rutschman, though, is he's a little bit safer because even if he doesn't hit, I mean, which is probably unlikely, but even if he doesn't hit, he's probably going to be a 1-WAR, 2-WAR Gold Glove catcher every year. That's what you can kind of count on. He's going to win games with his glove, and that is something that you don't see from too many catchers. He's Joe Mauer 2.0, this guy. Probably a better hitter, probably a better defender. So, even if he's not hitting, even if he has some issues, the Orioles are still going to get maybe a 2-WAR catcher a year, and that's probably worth that 8-year, $120 million you propose. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, we can branch off to another category here, another segment, as spring training is getting underway. Zach, I'm going to go by the projected 26-man roster. Just going to do the starting lineup and the rotation, 5-man rotation, and just see what your thoughts are. And this is based off Fangraphs projected team. Okay. All right. So they have leading off Austin Hayes. They have batting second DJ Stewart, Anthony Santander third, Trey Mancini batting fourth, Chance Sisco catching, Ryan Mountcastle at first, Freddie Galvis at short, Rio Ruiz at third, and Yolmer Sanchez at second base.
Yeah, so the first thing I have an issue with is Chance Sisco catching. I think they're going to start Pedro Severino, and I think that makes a lot of sense for the Orioles. I don't really think Chance Sisco is a starting catcher, but maybe he starts if Pedro Severino is injured, something like that. Also, Chance Sisco batting fifth, probably unlikely. I think Ryan Mountcastle is definitely going to be in that top 5. I think he's probably going to be in the top 4 of hitters. I like the rest of the lineup. I don't really have a problem with any of the starters because I do think that's going to be most likely the configuration the Orioles will go with. I hope that Jahmai Jones maybe plays second base and moves Yolmer Sanchez to third, Rio on the bench. And speaking of the bench, Fangraphs projects that Pedro Severino, Chris Davis, Pat Valaika, and Cedric Mullins will be on the bench for the Orioles. And I think that makes sense. I don't really have a problem with any of those guys. Obviously, Valaika is going to play a lot. Chance Sisco, who will definitely be on the bench, will play a lot. Cedric Mullins will play a lot. And Chris Davis, hopefully nothing. I really hope he gets 6 at-bats this year, but,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris Davis, I don't know. This feels like the year. Comeback player of the year. What do you think?
Yeah, I like dreaming too. It's fun.
My friend Greg and I were talking betting odds for MVP. And we're like, what do we think Chris Davis's betting odds for the AL MVP are?
I think it's worth putting $1 on it. I mean, it's probably plus $1 million, but
I said plus 1 trillion. So
plus 1 trillion.
Yeah.
Probably around there. Ryan Mountcastle, MVP season, rookie of the year. It's coming at you. I believe it.
All right. Looking here at the projected starting rotation, you got John Means as your ace, Keegan Aiken, Dean Kramer, Jorge Lopez, and running it out, Felix Hernandez.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty accurate. Jorge Lopez is probably going to be in that battle with Matt Harvey, Wade LeBlanc, maybe Bruce Zimmerman. There's a couple guys that could take that spot, but definitely Means, Aiken, Kramer, Hernandez. Felix isn't signing in Baltimore to go to the minors.
Not play, yeah.
Right. So he's going to be in there. Kramer and Aiken, unless they get injured, they're in there. John Means, same thing. And I think I'd prefer Lopez over just about anyone else for that number 5 spot. But, he's not very good either. So it's probably a toss-up of who's going to be the best between Harvey, LeBlanc, Lopez. But, I think spring training is really going to make a difference for the rotation, because these guys are going to have to prove they can come out there and pitch every 5 days.
All right, and rounding out the team is the bullpen. Hunter Harvey, we just talked about, being the closer. 2 setup men in Tanner Scott and a personal favorite of mine, Cesar Valdez. And then the rounding out the rotation is Dylan Tate, Paul Fry, Sean Armstrong, and how do you say his name? Max Scroller?
Scroller, yep.
Max Scroller and Tyler Wells. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I don't really agree with this too much. Hunter Harvey, I don't think they're ready for him to be closer. He's just not there yet for me. I think Tanner Scott is a perfect closer. He put up a 1.33 ERA last year. He was absolutely dominant, struck out a ton of guys, still had a 4.4, walks per 9, but he's a guy that I think is just ready. He's ready for that closer role, and he's the guy I would definitely trust most putting out there every 9th inning. Hunter Harvey and Cesar Valdez, I think, are perfect setup guys, especially Cesar Valdez. He's just been so effective with his dead fish pitch that he's kind of coined. And Dylan Tate, I think, is almost a lock. Paul Fry, a lock. Sean Armstrong is a lock. And then you get to Sroller and Wells. 2 guys I don't think will stick around. John Mioli wrote a really good article that basically said their odds are very, very slim. And that was the same thing for Brandon Bailey and Michael Rucker last year. So I don't think those guys will stick in the bullpen.
Okay. Fair enough. If you are listening and you have some other thoughts, feel free to tweet us at Foul Pole Pod. All right. Zach, you want to introduce our final segment of the show?
Yeah, so Matt and I were talking the other day, and he said that he didn't know any jersey numbers. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was an interesting topic because jersey numbers kind of mean a lot to some people and they mean nothing to others. So Matt, you have gone on the internet. You found out some of these jersey numbers. You found out some of your favorite players, what they were. What are some of your favorite jersey numbers? Because I think it kind of it's a player's image a little bit. If they wear 78 and they're playing second base, not great. Yeah,
get off the field. What are you doing?
Right. What are you doing?
Embarrassment.
You've got to be a pitcher. If you're Mookie Betts wearing number 50, that's just a terrible number. I don't know who's picking these numbers, but
I would personally release that player.
Yeah, just cut Mookie Betts. I'm sure no one's going to pick him up just because he's number 50. But by that logic, the Yankees should be cutting Aaron Judge as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So look out for that in the next few days. Aaron Judge is going to get cut because of this podcast. Hopefully the Orioles can pick those 2 guys up, but we'll see.
Would you not sign Yasiel Puig if he decided to wear number 66?
That's a good question. No, definitely not. It doesn't mean as much to me as that, but I think it's a good part of a player's image. I think it is. You just don't want to look bad playing the game. And, Mookie Betts wearing number 50, not the best. But, Matt, what are some of your favorite jersey numbers now that you've looked around a little bit?
Yeah, I did some extensive research on this topic, hours upon hours, to see, what I was really looking for in the jersey number, what I appreciated, what, spoke to me, spoke to my soul. And I came up with 4 jersey numbers. Number 8, that's the first one that I decided on.
Lamar, Cal, you can't go wrong.
Come to find out that Cal Ripken wore that number,
that's a pretty big one right there.
So number 8, now in all seriousness, I picked 4 numbers that mean the most to me in Oriole history, and more recent Oriole history. So I picked number 8, number 13 for Manny Machado, number 10 for Adam Jones, and number 21 for Nick Markakis.
I got to agree with you on 13. I think 13 has got to be one of the coolest numbers. 21, great number. 24, anything in the low 20s. That's when you're the best. DJ Stewart kind of ruined 24 for me.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. But you've got Austin Hayes at 21. That's great. Yusniel Diaz now number 23, by the way. Great choice. Great selection.
Yeah. Once you get to 25, it's all a wash. So not a big fan of that. Um,
27 is the best number in baseball, though. Best number in baseball. Mike Trout.
mhm.
And that's about it.
So essentially, whatever number Mike Trout is wearing at the moment.
Right. So if Mike Trout's number 50, I think it's the best number there is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this makes more sense for like football because it's like grouped per position, and I guess baseball is somewhat the same way. I've never really paid much attention to it, but I'm going to take your word for it. Zach, what are some of your favorites?
Yeah, that guy Lamar Jackson, he wears number 8. Pretty good player.
Okay.
If you've heard of him.
He's on the Bengals, right? Cornerback.
Yeah. No, he's on the Chargers, man. You gotta get up on your NFL knowledge a little bit.
Right. I'll work on that.
I'm with you on number 8. I like that. Obviously Cal Ripken. But I'm a big fan of the low 20s. You get into the high 20s too. It can be pretty solid. And for pitchers, I'm definitely in the mid 50s into 60s. That's definitely where I like to sit for the pitchers. If you're a pitcher wearing a low number, like Alex Cobb wearing number 17, you got to leave that for the position players for sure.
I would have no idea. I pay literally zero attention to numbers.
Like, have you watched a baseball game? That's the question. Like, have you seen the guys on the field?
I have. I'm going to steal a line from Catch Me If You Can. Why do the Yankees always win? Because people stare at those pinstripes. I'm just not looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the stats. I'm there for the stats. I'm there for the ambiance. Not there for the numbers.
Guy, you're just there to drink beer. I mean, that's if we're really.
I'm there to get drunk. Thanks, Zach,
right. Exactly.
Appreciate that.
This has been the entire existence of Matt's Orioles fandom. He just goes to Camden Yards. He just likes going to Camden Yards.
Sue me. That's a great spot. It's a great.
If there's any reason to be an Orioles fan,
it is fun taking people to Camden Yards who haven't been there before, and they're like, "Wow, this is amazing," and we're just like, "Oh, this is normal. This is whatever."
This is normal. I remember I was at a game about 2 years ago, and there was a guy taking pictures, and he was literally just like pronouncing to the entire crowd, "Just as advertised." He kept saying, "Just as advertised." While in the warehouse. I mean, we just take it for granted now, but it's true.
Yep.
But it's true.
Yep. All right. Tweet us in. What are your thoughts on jersey numbers? What are some that mean a lot to you? And a lot of players they'll stick with their same jersey number through like little league up to major leagues. So it means a lot to a lot of people. Not necessarily myself, but I'm open to the discussion.
I've got one more debate for you, Matt, before we get out of here.
Oh boy.
Metal bats versus wooden bats, because watching college baseball over these past couple of days, there's been a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on social media saying that they won't watch college baseball because of metal bats. Are you in that camp? Do you not like the sound of the metal bat? Do you not like the way the metal bat ruins the traditional values of baseball?
Those people need to spend far less of their time bitching and moaning on Twitter about aluminum bats. Get a hobby or something. It does not bother me whatsoever. That's why you have the Cape Cod League, so you can kind of take that out of the equation. I could care less. I like aluminum bats. I like hearing the ting, and it makes college baseball more fun to watch. In my opinion.
I'm still convinced they need to change the home run derby to metal bats, but then they probably injure some people pretty badly. I mean, if you see Aaron Judge out there
hitting tanks,
just hitting 150 mile an hour exit velocity bombs into the stands, no one is safe. No one is safe.
Yeah, come on. I feel like that would be much more. I mean, the ratings would go through the roof.
It'd be amazing. Really would be.
So. All right, fair enough. All right. Anything else before we wrap this one up, Zach?
No, but I think we'll be more on a regular weekly schedule coming up here soon. Hopefully we can get a game, a live stream. We can get some guests in there coming up in spring training soon, but it sounds like the Orioles won't be broadcasting spring training games. That might be a little bit more difficult, but maybe we can find a game on MLB Network that we could do. So look out for that coming up. We'll tweet that out whenever we're going to do that. But probably sometime in March, and then we'll probably have our weekly podcast coming up starting on near opening day.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Also, a quick plug, check us out. We're going to be on Birdland tonight coming up here in mid to late March. And then we're going to be hosting that. Zach and I are going to be hosting together sometimes with other people. So just check out that Birdland Tonight and follow them on Twitter too.
Yeah, created by Josh Soroka, host of Section 336. So they're doing some great things over there. Basically putting in a post-game show for Masson, since Masson doesn't have post-game shows anymore. So that's going to be very exciting, very good. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. As always, appreciate you guys listening, or if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to us. If you are watching on YouTube, tell your friends about it. Very much looking forward to this season, to growing a little bit more.
Yes.
First season was a big success for us, but we're hoping to get bigger and even better in year 2.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait for the draft show already. It's going to be a good one this year, and we've already done it once, so we'll get better in the second time for sure. Have some better guests this year, and yeah, be a good year.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.